Part 2 of the Certificate of Work Experience is to be filled out by the certifier. In this section, the certifier must include the dates in which you obtained the experience. They must also select if you were working on a part-time or a full-time basis. Keep in mind that if you were working on a part-time basis, you're going to receive 50% credit for that time, which means you'll need to provide 8 years of experience within the last 10 years so that you can meet that 4-year requirement. On line number 6, your certifier will need to list the duties that you performed or supervised that are considered critical for the classification that you are applying for. You can read a description of critical duties in the CSLB's Description of Classification booklet available on our website. Do not copy and paste the description from our booklet. This is only to give you an idea of what CSLB considers to be critical duties for each classification. Your certifier should complete this section in their own words and be as complete and accurate as possible. The final part of the work experience certificate is also to be completed by your certifier. They need to list their relationship to you and provide their contact information. Lastly, they will need to sign and date their certification. The next form we're going to discuss is the Owner Builder B General Building Construction Project Experience Form. This form only needs to be completed if you are applying for a B General Construction license and you want to receive experience credit for working on projects that were your own property. A separate form is required for each project on the property. The experience must be verifiable through building permits, final inspection, or other documentation. You will need to list the building permit number here on line number 6. On line number 7, you will need to provide the scope of the project. In boxes 8 through 10, you will need to provide more detailed information about the project. Question number 11 asks if any other general construction contractors worked on the project, and if so, what trades did they perform? Remember, this information needs to be as complete and accurate as possible.
All right. With all the information Anna just provided, it's a good time to remind you that we are recording the workshop. We'll post the video on our YouTube channel so you can go back and re-watch in case there's anything you missed. Okay, so now you've got your application submitted. How do you check the status of the application? Here's 2 resources. The first is a secured check. You'll need your application fee number and contractor PIN number to get an update. We'll send you that information after we receive, accept, and post your completed application. The second way is to look online at our processing times. Each week, we update our website with the date that we receive the paperwork for a specific process. As I mentioned earlier, we get thousands, hundreds if not thousands of things a week in different categories. So what you want to do is you want to look for the date that's being worked on and know that if the date shown is after the date that we likely received your paperwork, then chances are that we're working on your application. If the date was after the date that we should have received it, then chances are we probably aren't working on it yet. As you can imagine, we do receive hundreds if not thousands of documents every day, and we process them in the order that they are received. So be sure to take the extra time to get your application right so we don't have to send it back for you to correct and have to start the whole process again. Okay, when your application has been accepted, CSLB will send you a notice to appear for examination and study guide. You should get your exam notice at least 3 weeks before your exam date. With our test centers reopened now, we've added an additional session in the late afternoon to early evening to help us catch up with the 3 months that we were closed. While we do have 8 test centers around California, we would encourage you to take the exam at the center that's closest to you. Those centers are in alphabetical order: Berkeley, Fresno, Norwalk, Oxnard, Sacramento, San Bernardino, San Diego, and San Jose. The only one currently not open is in Berkeley.
If you're an applicant whose first language isn't English and you don't feel confident taking your exam in English, we do allow you to use a translator. The translator who you provide simply reads your exam questions. Question number 16 on the application asks if you need to use a translator to complete the examination. The translator must be approved by CSLB in advance. So you cannot just show up the day of your examination to the test center with somebody who's willing to translate the exam for you. When you get an exam date, make sure you do not miss it. If you fail to appear for your exam, you're going to have to pay the non-refundable $60 fee to reschedule. That fee may be waived once with documented evidence of a medical emergency or circumstance beyond your control.
Also, we have study guides available for each of our exams. Included in each study guide you're going to find a list of sections and topics covered by the exam. They'll also include sample questions, how each section of the exam is weighted, and recommended resources that you can use to prepare for your exam. These study guides are available online on our website. There's a bonus link to them at the bottom of your screen. Now, here's a quick look at a couple of those study exams. This first one is the study exam for the law and business exam, which all qualifiers must take no matter which license classification. That includes the D series limited classes. You can see the guide contains a breakdown of the examination topics, some test strategies, sample questions, and resources that were used to help create the exam. You'll see the same format on the next one, which is the B General Building Study Guide. I'll wait for the slide to forward for us here. There you go. We would recommend that you really pay attention to the exam content here, especially how we've broken down what percentage of questions will be on each of the 5 topics on the exam. You'll also note on the lower right of both of these slides, you can see bonus links. So you can actually download that actual slide as well as a link provided there for a complete list of our study guides.
So we do have some new COVID-19 procedures in place for test centers. Here they are. Plan to arrive at least 15 minutes early for your exam. Give yourself extra time to get yourself checked in. You must wear a face mask or other face covering. If you appear ill, you will have to reschedule your exam for at least 5 days later at no additional charge. And you will not be admitted into the test center more than 15 minutes prior to your exam time. We also just produced a short video, what to expect on test day video, that you can watch on our YouTube channel. The link is at the bottom of your screen.
Okay, you'll take the exam on a touch screen monitor. Before starting, you will see an on-screen tutorial that'll take you through the process. The exam itself consists of multiple choice questions. You'll also see a space on each question where you can, if you want, submit a comment about that question. You'll get 3.5 hours to complete each exam. Don't arrive late on that, or that may reduce the amount of time you get to complete your exam. And you'll get your test results at the end of the exam. If you don't pass the exam, you will not be allowed to review the questions you missed, but you will get a statement showing how you did on each section of the exam. And you can reschedule the exam as many times as you need to within an 18-month time period, as long as you pay the non-refundable $60 rescheduling fee each time.
After you pass your exam, what happens next? First, you'll need to pay the $200 for your initial licensing fee, which will be good for 2 years. You'll also need to complete an online asbestos open book exam. Plus, you'll need to file your required $15,000 contractor's surety bond, and possibly some other bonds depending on what type of business entity you have applied for. And you'll need to get your required insurance policy. If you've got employees, you'll need to get workers' compensation insurance. If you're going to be an LLC, you will need your liability insurance. See our website for more information. Please note that your insurance company or broker can submit your insurance information to CSLB directly through our website. If you don't have employees, you must file a workers' compensation exemption form with CSLB, and you can do that online as well.
In about 5 to 10 business days, CSLB will send you a wall certificate and a plastic pocket license card. Display the wall certificate in your main office or your chief place of business. Carry your pocket card with you, especially in situations where you're going to solicit business, talk to potential customers, or sign contracts. We encourage consumers to ask to see your pocket license. If you're going to have a salesperson working for you, be sure you get them registered as a home improvement salesperson with CSLB. Check our website for more on how to do that. Your license will be good for 2 years. It will expire on the last day of the month when it was issued. For example, a license issued today, October 2nd, 2020, will expire on Halloween, October 31st, 2022. Be sure you put your expiration date on your calendar, in your phone, anywhere you need to so you won't forget it. CSLB will send you a renewal notice in the mail about 60 days before it expires, but ultimately it's your responsibility to make sure you renew your license on time.
There are a couple of other important deadlines to keep in mind. First, notify CSLB within 30 days if you move or change your business address. Your renewal notice will be sent to the address of record that we've got on file. If you're not there anymore, you're probably not going to receive it. Plus, the Postal Service will not forward state government mail. Finally, notify CSLB within 30 days of all changes to the personnel on your license, especially when it involves a qualifier of the license.
Once you get your license and to get to work, you might want to hire someone as a salesperson to solicit, sell, negotiate home improvement contracts on your behalf outside of your place of business. These people are called home improvement salespersons, or HIS. Without an HIS, the official personnel of record on a license is the only one that can sell, solicit, negotiate, or execute a contract. That includes the individual contractors, the license qualifiers, the partners, the corporation officers, the LLC responsible managing officers, members, managers, or employees. Now, an HIS can work for more than one contractor, and as a licensee, you must notify CSLB in writing when a HIS either associates or disassociates with your license.
There are a couple of exceptions to note. First are those who only schedule appointments for the contractor or registered HIS, and bona fide service and repair people. These are the folks that you call out for repairs, including things like air conditioning, heating, and plumbing. But those service and repair people are limited to the work that was initially requested by the buyer or the homeowner. For example, if your AC goes out and you call an HVAC company to come out, the service person does not have to be a registered salesperson. But if they go beyond the repair itself and sell you a new HVAC system, they would have to be registered as an HIS. Also, don't employ an unregistered salesperson. That subjects you to administrative discipline, and the salesperson might get a citation or possibly even a criminal misdemeanor. We've got bonus links at the bottom of this page if you want to look at the actual code section of law.
All right, that is our presentation. It is time now to answer your questions. We're going to go ahead and turn back our camera so you can see us when we're talking to you. During the presentation, I've tried to go through and answer some of the more basic questions that I was able to take care of. So what we're going to do now is going to pull up the list of questions and go through them as quickly and efficiently as we can. So bear with us as we try to do this. We will try to be as informal as we can, but forgive us if we're not always looking at the camera, but I've got a lot to read here. And Anna, just so you know, is what I've answered. We're going to be starting at a question that came in at 10:21. You'll note that they're in gold. They have a little Q or A in gold. And if you're watching as well, if you've seen the questions here, you can follow along as well. The ones that are in gold are the ones we're going to start with, and then we'll work our way through. Okay, so the first question is the qualifier for the work experience responsible for the work performed by the applicant when he or she is licensed? I'll break it up into two questions here. So the first one is, and I'll just answer yes, the qualifier ultimately is responsible for all the work that's done by that licensee. Also, if you're a general contractor and you're subcontracting it out as the prime contractor, you're responsible for all the work that your subcontractor does. Second part, when I pass the exams and become licensed, can I make the license inactive until I'm ready to start working? I'll just say, and Anna, chime in if you want. The thing is, though, is you pay for that license as an active status. Unless you're going to be inactive for the entire time, you're going to, it might get just a lot of paperwork going back and forth as opposed to just keeping the license active for the first 2 years. And do you have anything to add on that?
You can definitely inactivate it, but when we issue it, it is active. So you just have to let us know.
Okay, next question is, what about the BS for civil engineering? Now, you know, what we'll do is we knew we were going to get questions on this, so we're going to go ahead and pull up the slide which showed the chart on what you can get educational credit for. And you can see in this case is degrees that are not in construction management are going to be getting you likely 24 months of experience. We're going to go ahead and leave this chart up for a little while so you can look at it. It is in the presentation, so feel free to download it, but 24 months for a BS as civil engineer. Okay, next is, I am applying for my B contractor's license. I'm planning to get my fictitious business name that includes the word renovation. Is the word renovation good enough for a B license? Anna's shaking her head. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Renovation is certainly something that it's appropriate for a B license. So you're good with that. Okay. Next question. I've worked in the construction industry for 27 years, but have never completed any apprenticeship program or school. All of my experience is hands-on. Do I need documentation?
Yes, you would still need to fill out the work experience certificate. You would fill out section 1, and somebody of your choosing would need to be your certifier. They will fill out section 2. And what they need to do is prove that you have at least 4 years of experience within the last 10 years.
Yeah, and the thing to point out too is there is no education requirement. Just because you haven't gone through an apprenticeship program or a college degree doesn't matter. We just talk about it here because if you happen to have done that, some of that experience can go towards the 4 years of experience that you need to get your license. So it's not required. Licensed schools and things that you go through, not required to get your license, but you do get credit for some of that if you do have it. Okay, next question is, within the 4-year requirement, is there a minimum number of hours per year required? To which Anna's kind of shaking her head. No, if I'm reading the question right, you have to do a certain number of hours per year. No, but as Anna talked about in the presentation, if you're just working part-time, you're only working part-time, so a year of part-time work is going to be equal to 6 months of experience. So you may break it down into shorter periods like that. There's no requirement that every year you have to do a certain amount of time to get up to the 4 years. 6 months a year for 8 years, and that's going to get you the 4 years of experience as long as it was in the last 10 years is what we're looking at. Okay, scrolling down here, what business entity would a nonprofit agency be?
So we offer different business entities. You would, we mentioned you could be a sole ownership, you can have a corporation, you can have an LLC, and we have more information. If you look at pages 2 through 4 in the application instructions, you can read what you can do with each entity and determine which would be best for your nonprofit.
All right. Next one. I am applying for my B license. I'm planning. Okay, it's renovation. We already answered that question. Do we need our employer to provide any information regarding our experience?
Yes. It doesn't necessarily have to be your employer. We need somebody, a certifier of your choosing, somebody who knows that you have journeyman level experience. We're looking for 4 years in the last 10 years. So somebody needs to be your certifier. It doesn't necessarily have to be your employer.
Right, and then one says, just to confirm, the certifier does not have to be a licensed contractor. That's correct. Does not have to be, they can be a coworker, yes, as long as they work in the trade or the qualifier is getting, as the qualifier getting licensed, as long as they've got the knowledge and they can attest that you have the knowledge to do that work, yes. Okay, does the person qualifying have to have a license themselves? No, they don't. Okay, can you please elaborate on the owner-builder requirements for the C27? So if you can kind of, I mean, it doesn't matter that it's a C27, but just briefly talk about how, if you've got experience as an owner-builder, how you would present that to us.
So the owner-builder experience is only considered when you're applying for a B license. So for a C27, you wouldn't even use that information. C27, you're going to want to have somebody fill out your certification of work experience. We're looking again for 4 years in the last 10. The owner builder form that we discussed is just for the B license.
Thank you for the clarification. I forgot that little subtle thing. So it's good that you made that. So it's a B if you want to use your owner builder experience. Next question, will the qualifier be reached out to, or are there any further actions required from them?
Yes, the qualifier is a person who has control and supervision of each construction project. So yes, they definitely play an important role in the licensing process.
Okay, can my employer who doesn't have a B license be your certifier? We talked about that. Yeah, they can. My husband and I have been doing landscaping work for the last 11 years. Does that count as experience when you apply for the C27? Chances are, yeah, that's that kind of experience, but you would need some of that experience doing the actual work that's required by the license. If you're just doing like your general landscape maintenance work, that may or may not get you the entire experience, but you would definitely go back and take a look at the presentation where we talked about the different experiences.
And you can also take a look at our description of classification booklet that's available online. Take a look and read. It will let you know what you can do. What are the critical duties for the C27 license? So if you read that section and you see that those are duties that you perform, absolutely include them in your work certificate.
Best way to find that too is go to our homepage, cslb.ca.gov. In the search tab, just type in classifications. It'll come up, you'll get a page and it'll show all the license classifications. You can click on the specific classification. It'll show you the definitions that Anna's talking about. Okay, next question is, what if you worked for a family company without tax documentation like pay stubs?
Okay, so we do consider, even if you were working for a family, in a family company, that is definitely experience. We talked about some of the supporting documentation that you would need to provide in the event that a CSLB staff member requested that documentation. So it's not only tax documents. There's other items on that documentation. So you'll want to review that publication. It's acceptable supporting documentation. But again, you would only need to provide that if CSLB staff asked you to provide that.
Next question is, does the qualifier need to own a percentage of the business to get the license?
There is a section if you are having a corporation or a LLC, there is a section on the application that will ask you what the percentage is. Yes, and you'll want to review. You can look also at the instructions. They will explain that to you. Page 3, I believe, in the instructions of the application.
Next, it's just somebody who looks like they want to be using an RME, responsible managing employee. Can I partner with an experienced contractor who's not yet licensed to get the license for the entity? They would be the one, if they're going to be qualifying the license, they're the one who's going to have to meet all the minimum qualifications we've been talking about. So if they can meet those qualifications, they can serve as your RME.
And sometimes we see people that do that. Maybe you only have 2 years of experience, and so you want to have an RME on your license for just while you acquire the full 4 years of experience. So we do see that, and you just need to let us know. As we mentioned in the presentation, anytime you have any changes, you remove a qualifier, add a qualifier, just let us know. We can definitely do that. At that point, you would be required to test. The new qualifier has to test, but it's an option.
During the registration, one of the things that we asked you when you registered was who was going to be qualifying the license. And one of the options that we offered there was, did you plan to go to a company that out there that you would pay to find a qualifier for you? I was very happily a little bit surprised that out of the 600 folks that registered for this workshop, not a single one of them said that. And that, why I say that's a good thing is because we have had lots of issues over the years with people who can't meet the minimum qualifications. They go to one of these companies and pay them not only a big fee up front, but chances are they pay them a monthly fee to have somebody who's going to be qualifying that license. Many times these are people who have inactive licenses. They may be retired, but they're just keeping their license. They might be in their 60s, 70s, 80s. They don't necessarily realize the responsibilities that they have. And then the person is usually doesn't have all the qualifications. Something goes wrong. We tend to get a lot of complaints against companies that have qualifiers that in essence that they rent. So I'm very happy to see that nobody's planning to do that. It is something that's out there. I would say if it's something that you're struggling with trying to get a qualifier, I'd be very careful. It's conceivable that's going to work out, but make sure you have a relationship with this person. They understand what they're getting into, and they can help you, support you. The reason why you want to have a qualifier is because they've got the experience, and you want to be successful as a business person. So if you don't have that experience, you want to earn the experience. You want to have somebody as your qualifier who's going to help you along in that process. So if you'll say that you're a contractor or somebody applying, you live in San Diego, and they partner you up with a qualifier who's in Redding, which is like 400 miles away. I mean, that's not really going to be in your best interest. So just be careful if you go that way. Again, I'm happy to see that nobody was planning to do that, but it is out there, and we would urge you to be very careful before you go in that direction. Okay, I will be renewing my application for the 3rd time. I have to change my last name. Is that going to be a problem?
No, absolutely not. You can do that right on the renewal form that we send you.
Okay, next is, does a business or owner-operator need to have a business license registered with the state prior to applying for a license? No, you don't need to have your business license in place before you get your contractor's license. You do want to have that business license in place because there's things like, you know, tax withholdings, and you want to be registered and follow all of the laws that come with being a contractor, but you don't have to put it in place. Now, if you are going to be a corporation, you do need to be registered with the Secretary of State's office. And you want to make sure, as we mentioned in the presentation, that you use the exact name that the Secretary of State has on file, and everybody on your corporate license needs to be on your CSLB license. Okay, next question. Are all employees listed on the license need to take the exam? No, just the qualifier is the person that takes the exam. And then down the road, if you decide to grow the company and have employees, your employees do not have to be on the license as well. Just the qualifier is the only one who takes the exam. Does a business owner or owner-operator need to have a business license? Okay, we just did that one. Okay. Will you be providing any recommendations of school and these online? No, we are not going to recommend any school to you. You do not have to go to a licensing school. If you feel that it might be helpful for you, then you can do that. It's not required. We do have not only the study exams, which, you know, quite frankly, they aren't in extreme depth. The other thing that I would encourage is our California license law and reference book. Now, there's a couple ways you can get this. You can either purchase it. I think it's about $55 if you want this copy, but there's a ton of information. You're going to use it. The other thing is you can download a copy for free on our website. In the presentation, we did have the links up a few slides into the presentation that you can download the PDF for free. There's a ton of information in the first 150 pages or so that's really going to help you on the business and law part of the exam. We cover a lot of those topics there. Also on the study exams, look at the list of resources that we show you there. Those are some other good resources. As I mentioned, you can go to the licensing schools, but it's not required. And some of them can be quite expensive. So that's a judgment you're going to need to make. They're not affiliated at all with the Contractors Board, so we're unable to recommend. So buyer beware, but they are out there, and they're good ones. If you think it's going to be something for you, then absolutely it's an option for you. Okay, next question about the education credits again. How much for an AS degree? I believe we mentioned that. Oh, thank you. There it is. If it's in construction management, you're going to get 18 months. Other associate degrees are going to get you an average of 6 months. Okay, next question. What kind of education credits for general contractor? Well, it doesn't necessarily matter which kind of contractor's license you're going to be going for, unless it's got that construction management. Okay, where do you get the applications? Applications are available on the CSLB website. Right there on the homepage, you see applicants and you see buttons to find it. You should have no problem for getting to the application. Okay, just somebody to reiterate, the certifier does not to be licensed. That is absolutely correct. Okay, next question has to do with out of state. Does out of state work count in the qualifying time? Can you use out of state? And I know in some cases we do have people asking about international experience too.
Yes, as long as you have somebody who is willing to fill out your certification of work experience, as long as they list the duties that you performed, we will consider work that was done out of the state or out of the country.
Great. The next one, I think we have talked about this, but I'll make sure we cover it again. Does my certifier need to have a B license in order for me to obtain my B license? No, they don't have to be the licensee at all. Do I have to get my C20 for ductwork cleaning only? Ductwork cleaning.
Again, I would encourage you to read the description of classification booklet to see what a C20 can do. That's cleaning. You shouldn't require a C20 license, but you'll want to look and that section there, read the description and see what it is exactly, what the critical duties for a C20 are.
Yeah, and the next one kind of ties into that. Ask us if the C20 can sign T24 documents, Title 24. I don't know enough about the requirements and how those would work. So I'm sorry, unless Anna, you know for sure. I'm sorry, we can't help you with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, please advise how if a sole proprietorship B license can be inherited from a family member father. The license is currently inactive. They would like to maintain the license and make it active at some point. So families.
So yes, you can be added to a license. What would happen in this case, we would add you to the license. If you were going to be the qualifier, then you would have certain days to replace your father or your family member. You would have up to 90 days to pass the examinations. So you would be required, as long as you can prove that you have the experience, you can keep the same license number.
Okay, next one talks about experience. One thing we did not have on our charts, and so, and in case you know, great. If not, I may have to get back about this one. But they're asking about experience for a master's degree in engineering. My guess off the top of my head would be that if you're looking for an A engineering license, don't hold me to this, but I'm going to guess that's going to probably get you the full 3 years. You would still need at least 1 year of the practical experience, because we do for construction management, we gave you 3. So I can't imagine that we wouldn't for a master's in engineering if you're going to be getting an engineering license. For other ones, I don't know if it's going to get you how much credit you'll get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one is, who can be the certifier if I'm the CEO of a corporation and applying as the RME? Okay, so it sounds like in this case that he's the only one on the license. Well, he's applying as an RME. I'll just read it again. Who can be a certifier if I am the CEO of corporation and I am applying as the RME? Okay, so in this case, you're going to be having to have the experience. Did you get that experience working for this company or another company? If you got experience doing this as an unlicensed person, you could. There's still ways to get that verifiable. And I do want to talk about if, you know, what kinds of credit we would offer for an unlicensed work.
Sure. So who can be your certifier? Again, anybody can be your certifier. You're going to want to look at that list. There's different classifications at the bottom of the form, that it does not have to be a licensed contractor. It can be a 4-person. It can be, if you were part of a union, it can be a union member. It can be a fellow coworker. It's somebody who can certify that you have journeyman level experience, 4 years within the last 10. We do give experience for unlicensed work as well. On the supporting documentation paperwork that we went over, there's a list for work that was done being self-employed, meaning you weren't licensed. We will give you credit for that time. And so you're going to want to look at the different documentation that you can provide in the event that it's requested. Again, you're not going to want to send that in with your application. That's only going to be sent in if CSLB requests that from you. But as far as who can be your certifier, it can be anybody that falls in that classification there.
All right, next question. How can I add or remove person off my license? It's on our website. The forms are there. Just go there, go to the search bar. It's a fine way, you know, change personnel. And you'll get a link to go find that form on our website. I am a legal resident, DACA in California. Do I need to be a citizen of the U.S. To get my license? Now, the two things that you would need to do is either have a social security number or an individual taxpayer ID number, ITIN. So it doesn't have anything to do with citizenship. If you do have an ITIN, then that's good enough for you to use towards getting your license. How much accredited time with an associate's degree? Okay, there we go. We're going to pull the slide back up and take a look at the credits again. We've talked about this a couple times. So an associate's degree in liberal arts, that's going to be you're probably an average of 6 months. And degree need to be completed to get approved before the test, right? Yeah, you need to have your transcripts that you present with that. Okay, I got a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, a certificate in Interior Design, including construction inspection. Does that have to all be within the 10 years? No, the education does not have to be, just the work experience within the last 10 years. So getting that experience at that degree at any point, that's fine. Okay, can I please elaborate on who serves as a qualifier? I'm not sure. We've talked about it in a few different ways. Anna, is there anything you can think of that can help us kind of elaborate on who can serve? It needs to be somebody who's got the experience doing that work and can meet minimum qualifications.
That's right. The qualifier is a person with the experience. So that is a person who is also going to have supervision over your construction projects, and that is also the person who's going to take the examination. So it's really up to you who your qualifier is. You will indicate on your application who the qualifier for your license is, but it's that person, the person who has the experience, the person who's going to take the examination, and the person who's going to have supervision.
Okay, next question has to do with interpreters. Do you have the same amount of time to take the exam if you use an interpreter?
I believe you can ask for extra time on interpreter on translation days. They do have they do provide you an hour extra per examination. Of course, if you're done sooner, you can move on to the next exam. You don't have to wait around. But yes, you do get extra time.
Terrific. The important part about that we talked about in the presentation. If you do want to use a translator, please get that approved in advance. Don't just show up on test day with that, because that's not going to work. Okay, next question. What if the qualifying entity changes once you're licensed? Are licenses transferable to new entities if the sole member remains the same? So Anna, so what are the rules? So in this case, it sounds like they're changing the business entity, and that's not unusual. We have a lot of people that start off as a sole ownership. They may eventually change to a corporation. So maybe you can just talk about.
And it depends. Correct. A lot of people start off as a sole member, sole ownership license, and then if they want to change to an LLC or a corporation, you can always do that. You will have to apply. You're going to have to submit a new application. From a sole ownership to a corporation, that license transfers. It depends. Each situation is different. If let's say you have a partnership and you want to go to a corporation, you can't take that number with you. That partnership gets dissolved. So there's different caveats, but it is a possibility. You would have to apply again and pay the fees again. You wouldn't have to test, obviously, if it's in the same classification that you had, but you would have to pay the fees.
Okay, next question. Does supervising cosmetic repairs to apartments qualify as experience? So supervising other people doing cosmetic repairs.
It depends. I would say you want to be very specific during the whoever's certifying your experience. You're going to want to be very specific. What did you supervise? What exactly was being done? It depends what license you're applying for as well. But it can be considered it's supervision, so we absolutely give experience for supervision. But it just depends. What type of repairs are we talking about? What license are you applying for?
Okay, next question is, can journeyman level electrical work in the entertainment industry, i.e. movies, live events, be used as work experience? It doesn't necessarily matter what the industry is that you're doing the work in. If you're doing journeyman level electrical work, there's a good chance that be usable, but as Anna's talked about, is look for, in this case, you'd probably be looking for the C10 electrical. Look at the definition of that, make sure that you're meeting those requirements, the kinds of things you're doing that make sure that the person certifying your experience, talks about those things, because that's the stuff, especially in electrical, there's a lot of safety issues there. So we're really careful about going through those applications. Do I get credit for an inactive license? I'm not sure what kind of credit. But the whole idea of work experience is that you're actually working. So if you're on a license or if you're involved in a company that's not working, I'd have to guess no.
And it's kind of vague. Do I get credit for an inactive license? If it's your license and you want to activate it, you just need to let us know, and we'll let you know what the fee is for bringing it active. But if you're on somebody else's inactive license, it just depends. I think we need more information on that one.
Yeah, not sure why somebody would have you on the license working. Yeah, okay. I have 30 years of experience in the trades. Specifically, I worked 18 as a project manager level for a larger general contractor. The last 5 years, I worked as a developer, as a director of construction, managing general contractors. Then it got cut off. I want to get a B license. Will I need a qualifier? Okay, so 30 years of experience, specifically 18 years of project manager. What's unclear is that the experience has to be in the last 10 years. I'm assuming that there's some overlap here. But he only mentions the last 5 years he worked as a developer, as a director of construction, managing general contractors. My guess would be, if in the last 10 years you've worked 5 years as this developer, that may, but it's hard to give you a final definite answer on that. Anna, is your neck longer?
Right, so we're looking for... Right, we're looking at for 4 years within the last 10. You would get credit for working with the construction managing general contractors. So as long as you have 4 years of experience in the field that you're going into, if you're applying for the B, as long as you have that experience, 4 years within the last 10, you would be able to apply.
Okay, next one is, do I need to have a $15,000 cashier check in lieu of a bond? I believe that that law has stopped in the last couple of years. So now the $15,000 bond is the only option.
Correct.
Okay, I am an architect master student, education credit. If that means you're working towards a master's, you're a student going for a master's degree, at this point, we only go for what's completed. So as we have on that chart, so you would have, I assume, have a bachelor's degree in architecture, then that would get you the bachelor's degree. And I honestly, I don't know if that would work. It depends if it was engineering or building contractors, depending on if you would get 2 or 3 years. But as I said in the presentation, is don't just squeak by with it just in case you don't get the full amount you think that you might. Sorry not to be more specific than that. Can a journeyman, okay, we talked about that one and it came up again. Okay. A Master of Science in Real Estate Development. Again, similar to the question we had earlier about the Master in Engineering. Boy, there's, don't hold me to it. I'm going to guess it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 3 years, but don't hold me to it because obviously you have to have that undergraduate degree. But I don't know what all goes into a master's degree. So my guess would be between 2 and 3 years. Again, if you're not sure, don't let it be what barely gets you over the 4-year line. Or you may, we'll give you an email address at the end of this to get a hold of our licensing people, but it's a real challenge. We get 1,000-ish applications every month, and we just don't have time to be going through a lot of things with people. It just takes away from actually processing the applications if they spend a lot of time going over the what ifs. So we try to give you as much general information as we can. I would just encourage you not to try to squeak by. Okay, the organization I work for has an existing C10 electrical license. To apply for an A license, would we apply for an additional classification? If that organization is wanting to expand and add the classification, then yeah, they absolutely can add the class. In that case, they would not need to take the business and law exam again. They would just need to take the exam for the additional classification. If so, would the qualifier have to take both exams or just the one specific? No, you can have different qualifiers for each classification. So if you want to have both your C10 and an A license, you can have a qualifier for the C10, complete the A. As long as they're on that license, that's not a problem.
And we mentioned we have over 40 classifications. You can have as many classifications as you have a qualifier for. So you can add classifications to your license. It's a different application. So once you're licensed, you would be looking for the additional classification form to add classifications. The fee, I believe it's $150 to add classification. Then the qualifier would just come and take just the trade exam.
Okay, I'll apologize in advance for the next one because I went to college to become a CNC machines. I don't know what that is. How much credit can I get? I'm sorry, Augustine. I don't know what that is. I would just encourage you to look at our charts. But if it's a degree, is it a technical degree from a technical? We can maybe bring the chart up because we do talk about technical courses. And I'll wait for that chart to pop up here in a second. You may get some credit, but you have to have completed either the technical courses, an apprenticeship, or the degrees itself. Okay, it's not coming up. But yeah, so take a look at the chart in the presentation, and then that'll be an idea on how much you're going to get. I apologize for not knowing what CNC